Hi guys, I'm Peter Birch and welcome to my channel CrittaCam. If you're new to this channel, please do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and the notification button to keep up to date, to make sure you continue to join the adventure. Today we're going to be looking at dwarf monitors. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to CrittaCam. Okay, today we're going to be looking at the Northen Ridged Tailed Monitor, the Varanus primordius. Now, these guys are an absolute gorgeous little monitor. Not to be confused with the Varanus acanthurus ridged tailed monitor. These guys have their own whole personality. Let's check them out. Today, in fact, I'd like to highlight the Varanus primordius, and I do have a couple of them. These are absolute gorgeous little animals to keep. They are very, they have got a great personality. What can I say? They're so active and they're so alert. It's absolutely amazing. So what I've done basically to make it very easy to keep these guys, I'm using these Exoterra terrariums. They're 60 centimeters by 45 by 60. So they're a great size for two monitors, and I've got pairs in each one of these enclosures. These guys do absolutely really well. And in fact, I've bred these guys a couple of times, and keeping and breeding these guys is pretty much straightforward as long as you follow the very key essence of keeping monitors. Now, monitors do like high body temperatures. So therefore, we need to make sure that they've got basking sites that are absolutely a lot hotter than what we would usually keep some of our other animals, like bearded dragons. So bearded dragons don't mind temperatures up to 45, whereas monitors, and especially small monitors, really love temperatures up to 55 and sometimes 65 degrees Celsius. That's right, Celsius, absolutely huge temperatures there, absolutely boiling. Now, what I've done to make it simple and really effective to keep these guys, I've just built little rock mounds underneath the lights to help lift them up, and I've thrown a whole heap of branches and twisted roots and sections like that in. Now, that enables lizards to be able to hide under the rocks to bask, and they can thermoregulate and pick different temperatures up and down in the basking area. They can also climb up on top of the timbers and mimic naturalistic behaviours. Now, you can see there's a box in this other corner here. Well, that box there is actually a nesting box. So what I've done is I've given them the opportunity to be able to dig in a very shallow amount of soil, because I want to be able to know where they're laying their eggs. Now, after I've travelled a fair bit and I've noticed some of the other Americans and some of the other Australians, how they keep their animals, I've started to mimic a little bit more of how some of the Americans are doing things, because they don't get the opportunity to replace these animals as readily as the Australians do. So these guys take keeping animals to the next level. It's almost very hard to replace some of the species that they don't have in the country naturally. So the nest box is placed on top, adding a nice, easy to dig substrate. Now, I use just normal fine white sand. I can wet it down just like I have here, and what that does is it compacts really well and it makes a really good substrate for burrowing. Now, these guys can burrow in there, make a nice little nesting area, basically holds its own shape. They can deposit the eggs and then they can move out. Now, the key to keeping any egg-laying species is to make sure that the substrate that they're digging in is deep enough for them to immerse 90% of their body. Now, you don't typically go out in the bush and find a lizard to scratch the ground and lay eggs in it in a small depression and then cover them. There are some species of dragons that do that, but not all. When we're talking agamids, that's usually what happens. They like to get down deep, and especially with monitors. Monitors definitely need to get down really deep. Now, they usually have most of their body in the ground with slightly their head exposed, or maybe just the snout, but they definitely want to be able to see what's going on while they're doing the process. Small monitors are no exception to that at all. So, like I said, I do keep a couple of pairs of these guys, and yes, I have bred them before a couple of times, and they are absolutely gorgeous little creatures. And here again, another pile of rocks under a heat source, getting nice and crispy hot. Now, all monitors like exposure to UV lights, so you've got to make sure you've got high output UV lights. Really crank up the UV, really crank up those temperatures, and what's going to happen next is that the body of these animals is going to be exposed to high temperatures, which means their metabolism is going to be racing. So we need to make sure that they've got a lot of adequate food consistently to be able to maintain the right body shape and the right conditions consistently, considering that we've cranked up those temperatures so they're their maximum or their optimum temperatures to run. Now, we also need to give them a cooling cycle. So that cooling cycle is very simple. We can reduce the temperatures for a few months by 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, and that'll basically push that lizard down into a slower process where he doesn't need to eat as much food, he doesn't need to burn off as much calories. It means he can spend a little bit more time hiding, come out once in a while, eat once in a while, and then go back. And these guys do love to dig, and in fact they like hiding underneath their lay box right there, and they hide all amongst the cages. And as you can see, they're absolutely gorgeous animals, relatively easy to keep and maintain, and what can I say? An absolute dream to keep. Now, I've kept these guys and bred them, and here is one of my raise out tubs that I use, and here is a 2-year-old Varanus primordius, and as you can see, these guys are absolute monsters. An absolute monster of a lizard right there. Hey, tiny little things. Now the parents are much larger than these, almost twice this size, making them a considerable, considerable sized adults overall. They're absolutely gorgeous little animals, and they've got indications that are very similar. So they've got these slightly little ridged tails, very similar to an Acanthurus, so the ridge tail monitor is very similar, but obviously they don't have any of the ocellates, all that red colorations. These guys are from the Northern Territory, and they inhabit some of the open woodlands, hence the fact they like to hide in rock piles, under timber and things like that. So an absolute gorgeous little species to keep. Insectivorous, lots of calcium, lots of water. Make sure they've always got an opportunity to get to fresh water, very key for this species, and for most species that live out in some of these harsher terrains. And I tell you what, absolute gorgeous animals all around. Let me know what you guys think about these little Varanus primordius. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at these guys in particular, and who knows what the future may hold. Maybe we'll look at a couple more dwarf monitor species and we can do some comparisons. Leave a comment below, tell me what you guys thought about today's show if you enjoyed it, and make sure you do me a big favour, if you really enjoyed it, hit that like button. Make sure you hit me up on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Until next time guys, thanks so much for your support. I'll be here hanging out with these tiny little monitors. Thanks for watching CrittaCam.